Hey, what's going on, everyone? Prophet with Profit here. UFC Vegas 105, 106 today. We're not going to do a recap of last week. You guys watched the fights. A couple decisions didn't go our way. Unfortunate. It's the game we play. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. First fight, we got Tisha Pennington, Luana Pinheiro. There's not a whole lot I have to say on this fight. I think it's a pretty easy pick on the side of Tisha Pennington. She's got the experience. She's looked better in her last couple outings. Luana Pinheiro, she's been getting dominated in her last three fights. I think she's like 2-3 in her last, and she's lost the last three straight. Tisha, on the other hand, she won her last fight, and she's had some split decisions not go her way, but still looking like a not a prime Tisha Pennington, but still looks like an elite woman's caliber fighter, however you want to word it. But Luana, I think the UFC is not a good fit for her based on what she's been showing lately. I think on the feet, Tisha's quicker. I think on the ground, they kind of cancel each other out. Luana has a little bit of size. It's negligible, though, and I see Tisha winning this fight like a 30-27, 29-28, just throwing kicks out there, throwing strikes out there. She's quick. That's she looks good to the judges in a boring fight. And what I mean by that is, there's something always out there. She's throwing something out there. It's not damaging, it's not powerful, but it's something for the judges to mark on their scorecards that someone else is being more active. And that's kind of the fight I see being here. Probably Luana's last fight here, and pick's going to be Tisha Pennington here. Next fight, we got Hung Sung Park versus Carlos Hernandez. This is one of those fights I actually think there's some value here on Carlos Hernandez. A lot of people are on the side of Hung Sung Park, and they say he's been looking good, but it's like against who? You know what I mean? A lot of these fights you go back and watch, they're low caliber ex UFC fighters or regional scene fights. And I get it, the 9-0 record looks cool and shiny, whatever. But Carlos Hernandez has been in there with some serious dogs, and it's like whenever they throw him in there with the experienced vets, he gives them a rough time. I mean, just look at his record. Oh man, I wish I was on Tapology, but he's fought Tatsuo Taira. He fought Tumen Dembarel, and Tumen Dembarel, he's not a high level guy by any means, but he was an up and coming prospect, quote unquote, and he went out there and he won that fight as well. And like I said, Carlos, he's fought the much better competition, and he's lost, but it's like he's been in there though. He's got the rounds with them. Hung Sung Park, this is going to be his hardest fight by far, and I see him losing his O this weekend, and a good win for Carlos at plus money. So Carlos Hernandez is going to be the pick. Elise Reed versus Denise Gomes, another straightforward pick. A lot of these fights this weekend, guys, there's not much to break down. The lines are kind of whack, but that's just a disclaimer for anyone watching right now that there's not going to be crazy deep dives this week. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Denise Gomes, younger, high potential, more power. She can defend herself on the ground. And yes, she got dominated in her last one, but it was Amanda Lemos. Way too soon for her. But these lower caliber women, the top 15, outside the top 15, Elise Reed, she's gonna mess Elise Reed up pretty badly. I see an early knockout, round one, round two. That's the play. I think Denise Gomes by knockout, she gets it done early. That's gonna be the pick. Luana Santos versus Tainara Lisbo. This is another pick that people aren't really agreeing with me on, and I think Lisbo can get it done on the ground. On the feet, I think Luana Santos is better. I do. And she's a little bit quicker, but it's that ground game, that X factor. And I know sometimes it's annoying, especially when, last week we have someone like Bilal where his whole game plan should be centered around the grappling, and then he doesn't go out there and grapple. It sucks. But Lisbo, these women, these lower tier people, they know what they're good at. They know what their strong suit is. They know how to edge a win out there. So I think Lisbo is going to be shooting takedowns early and often. I see her getting a close decision win. I don't think it's a lock by any means, but her at plus money right now makes sense. It's a good thing to take a stab at. And Luana Santos, she definitely has a chance on the feet. But like I said, the ground game is definitely on the side of Lisbo. And these women, they just prove that they can never get up once they're down. It's ridiculous. So I'd go with Lisbo on this one on the early pick and take her just on the money line. Connor Matthews versus Yadir Delval. The pick is Yadir Delval. There's not too much tape on him outside of the regional scene, and he's looked good so far. He's got power. He's quick. but he's still very untested. He leaves his chin up there a lot. To be honest, he's a little bit floppy on his feet. He kind of, plots forward. And Connor Matthews, on the other hand, he's a little bit quicker, yeah, but it's Connor Matthews. I don't think he should be really in the UFC right now. That's why they're giving him this, this Dana White Contender Series fighter, I should say. And I think this is just a pedestal for Yair to get into the UFC, and then they'll probably boot Matthews after this. But there's nothing that Matthews offers here that I don't think Delval can handle. The wrestling, he's got wrestling of his own, so it'll counteract. But the power, the striking, the accuracy, all on the side of Yair. I just don't like how he keeps his chin up sometimes. So I'm a little iffy on this one. I probably wouldn't play this either at the odds that they're at right now, but early pick's going to be Delval. Next fight, we got Jared Gordon, Thiago Moises. This is my favorite fight on the card for value-wise. I think Thiago Moises is better everywhere compared to Jared Gordon. And some people are high on Jared Gordon this week, and I think it's because they're blinded by that Paddy Pimblett fight that he won. He lost it in the judges, but he won that fight. Everyone knows he won that fight, and that's a good win. Props to him. Beating Paddy Pimblett is not easy, and we've seen what Paddy Pimblett's been doing lately. But right now, I think Thiago Moises has loads of more experience. I mean, just look at his record. Look who he's been up in there against. He went 3 or 4 rounds with Islam Makhachev. He's fought the who's who. He's fought the big up-and-coming guys. He's fought the Benoits. He's fought the Joel Alvarez's. I mean, this guy, seriously, they throw him in there with everyone, and he's still so young. It's kind of wild, the road that they've tried to give Thiago Moises. But it's not for no reason. They're not giving him these guys just because they don't like Thiago. It's because his skill set is of the elite caliber. It's just sometimes his chin is a little bit iffy, and the elite grapplers can sometimes have their way with him. But I think Thiago's better everywhere in this fight. I think the way he loses is if Jared Gordon catches him on the chin or Thiago gets lazy with the striking and gets taken down. But I think Thiago Moises should be the play all day this weekend. Him on the money line is just leave it there, free money. Him on the money line, hammer that. I think Thiago Moises, he's probably going to be the lock of the week. Next fight, we got Gabe Green versus Matthews Camilo. I might have butchered his name, but whatever. And I'm taking Gabe Green right now. He's like plus 200, something like that, against a guy that's coming off of it was like Dana White's Looking for a Fight series, the one with the Korean Zombie, his little fight league. And the main reason they picked up Matthews is they were there looking at a guy. I'm not sure if you guys saw in the press conference maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. A guy was like, hey, I'm 22 years old. I want to fight in the UFC. And Dana's like, what? What's your record? 8-0. Oh, okay. And then he came up on stage and they're like, okay, they threw him in that contender, that promotion for the Korean Zombie where they kind of try to pick out the nicest prospects out of there. And so they were there to watch him fight. And then this guy, Camilo, beats him in a decision. So weird situation, because without that guy getting the recognition, they probably wouldn't have been there really watching Camilo. And Camilo beating him, maybe the UFC was like, oh, wow, like he's a prospect in our eyes now because this other guy was undefeated. But it was a decision. From what I watched in that fight, Camilo's got some pretty good striking. His ground game, probably one of his best aspects. I think the way Gabe Green loses this fight is if this Camilo guy goes in there and he starts trying to grapple the whole time, because he can grapple. So if you want to pick him for that grappling upside edge, I understand it, because Gabe Green is a little bit reckless. He kind of is on the median right here of UFC fighter, not UFC fighter, but he's got all the experience. And when you got someone like that with all the experience, he's been in there with some UFC fighters versus someone their very first time, has a little bit of upside in one specific category. I'm going to take the UFC fighter with the experience that I think has a good shot at still getting this guy out of there. So Gabe Green's going to be the pick. I don't really want to take him out of knockout because the grappling scares me. What if he wins, some of these rounds off damage, but then gets taken down, whatever it is. But Gabe Green at plus money, I'll take a shot at all day against an up-and-coming prospect who, really didn't amaze me in that fight that I watched. Next, we got Costa versus Arosa. This fight, I think they're trying to figure out really where Arosa is more than Costa. Costa's been beating the guys that he should be beating. He's been beating the higher level people, in my opinion, than Julian Arosa. But I think this is a fight where Costa can seriously shine. Like, yes, Arosa has a good ground game. Like, he's got some scary submissions under his belt. But Costa has all the submission grappling as well, the upside there. And that's where his, where the balance kind of evens out. As far as Arosa, where usually he would have that upside against other people. Costa, he's good everywhere on the ground. And a Julian Arosa on the feet, he pieced up Darren Elkins, and it's like, we're not going to start crediting this guy for beating up Darren Elkins. He's 45 years old, okay? Like, you beat Darren Elkins. Congrats. Get in line. But this fight, I think Costa, he's going to be better everywhere. If they go down to the ground or whatever, he'll be able to keep himself safe enough to not get in trouble with Arosa. Like, Arosa's not really a dominant grappler. He just has good submissions. Almost reminds me of like a Paul Craig. Like, a Paul Craig isn't going to just sit on you. He's going to want to try and throw some weird submission and get you caught. Costa's smarter than that. He knows the ground. I think it's going to primarily stay on the feet just because they're both decent on the ground. And I think Costa, he either cruises to a decision based on more damage, or maybe Costa drops Arosa and gets a submission. But I think Costa, at his line right now, that's some serious value. Minus 190, that's some good value on a guy like Costa who just went out there and beat C-Rod. Next fight, we got Dustin Stoltzfus versus Nursultan Ruziboyev. This fight should be fireworks, man. Stoltzfus, he likes to stand and bang with everyone. He's got the grappling edge, but he's talked in interviews before, like, he likes to strike first, and you can see it in his fights. He'll stand in there and he'll bang. He'll throw hands with you all day. Nursultan, on the other hand, he's not really the stand and bang type. He's more the sniper, on the edge, outside jab, right hand, wait for you to come in, counter. And that's why I think this is going to be a good clash. I think Dustin at some point is going to get frustrated, rush in, and get caught with something. Ruziboyev knocks him out. I don't really see a decision for either side of these guys unless Stoltzfus takes Ruziboyev down consistently. But I think Ruziboyev is eventually going to catch him with something, some counter, and it's going to land, and it's going to land hard. He's 6'5", so he's a big dude, hard to get in on and strike with. So Ruziboyev by knockout is going to be the pick here. Or if you guys want, you can do the under. Whatever floats your boat on that one. Next one, we got Sodiq Yusuff versus Myron Santos. The odds on this surprised me. I think Yusuff has the higher upside. I think he's fought the better people. I think his striking style is better than Santos. And really, Santos lost his last fight, and Yusuff, he's had the past two fights that have been rocky. He had that Edson Barbosa fight where he was cruising to a win, and then he just, he lost it in the end there. But it's Barbosa. That's a hard fight. And then he goes out there and gets knocked out in round one by Diego Lopes. I'm not going to bash him too much for that. Yusuff has some high potential. The reason why they made this fight is both these guys are for the most part, they like to counter strike-ish, and they're both very flat-footed. They like to stand in there. Yusuff likes to use that Muay Thai. Santos likes to throw those hooks, those uppercuts. He likes to stand there. He likes to be powerful in the pocket. Same with Yusuff, but I think Yusuff is a little bit quicker than him, and I think he has a little bit more in his arsenal as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Yusuff goes out there and tries to wrestle, honestly. Like we saw what happened with Santos against Francis Marshall. He got a robbery win, and he couldn't get up off his back to save his life, really. It was a frustrating watch because we picked Santos in it. Happy he won or whatever for the bets or whatever, but he did not look very impressive on his back. So I'd be very interested to see if Yusuff decides to use some grappling, implement some to some sort of level, at least put it in Santos's head, like, hey, this guy might grapple me. But even when they're on the feet and they're both standing in that telephone booth, I think Yusuff's got the cleaner striking, the faster striking. He might not hit as hard as Santos because Santos does have some power, but I think Santos is there to be hit, and it sucks. Yusuff is there too a little bit to be hit as well, but I see Yusuff getting a strong decision here, or maybe we get a weird finish between these two, but the pick's going to be Yusuff, underdog money all day. Next fight, man. This one. Rodolfo Bellato versus Paul Craig. Bellato is one of my favorite fighters. He's so fun to watch. He doesn't care about his brain health. He goes in there and he gets rocked by everyone, and he finds a way to tough it out and just keep going. Like literally his past two fights, he has been in there on critical condition on multiple occasions. Jimmy Crute had him on critical condition round one. Who's the other guy? Some other Russian that just got cut. He had him on critical condition, and Bellato just finds a way to keep going. It's so weird. He has just this it's weird. He has a good but bad chin. You know what I mean? Because he gets rocked, but then he gets back up and finds his way back into the fight. It's like it almost like when he gets rocked and knocked down, it's like that's when he wakes up and he's like, all right, now I'm in a fight. It's so weird, but it's fun as hell to watch. And he's got a guy in Paul Craig who I think this is probably one of his last fights, if not the last fight. And Paul Craig on the feet has no chance against Bellato. That's just me being straight up honest. Paul Craig, his bag has always been his submission. That's always been his bag. That's always been his game plan. His way to win is get on the ground, get knocked down, have somehow find a way to pull the person down and get him in some sort of triangle, something. That's his game. His striking is not that impressive, and I don't think he should really be at light heavyweight. And they just gave him a monster in Bellato. That's why Bellato's like minus 500 right now. It makes sense. I think Bellato goes out there, and I should have mentioned this first, but Paul Craig, if they do go to the ground, Bellato, if you watch his fights, it doesn't look like he knows how to grapple, but his grappling is actually a strong suit. I know it sounds weird because all he likes to do is strike, but he came out and he was talking about, he's like, I just love to strike. And he's going to be safe on the ground unless he gets really stupid or he gets really rocked on the feet and he doesn't know where he's at somehow, some way. Then Paul Craig maybe gets the submission, but I think Bellato goes out there. I think he knocks Paul Craig out very early. And Paul Craig's, his thing has been, he gets rocked and then people go down to the ground and he survives. I think Bellato is going to follow him down there. He's going to land some more ground and pound, and then it's going to be over. We'll call it at that. So Bellato round 1 knockout, very, very live. Bellato just straight up knockout should be live as well. Whatever you want to play, I think Bellato, he should dominate here in this position. Last fight, we got Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. Setup fight for Michael Morales. Gilbert Burns, not sure how much more he's got in the gas tank. I'm surprised they keep giving him just absolute killers. Like, I mean, look at his record, man. Jack Della Maddalena. They gave him Hamzat Chimaev. They don't like Gilbert Burns, man. Apparently, they're giving him straight killers on the rise, and this is no different right here in Morales. I think this is Morales' fight to shine on the feet. The grappling does worry me a little bit, but I think Morales is good enough to really not necessarily use too much technique to stay on the feet, but just his strength. He's very strong, very big for this division. Not huge, but he's like, he's just got straight up power for this division. So I think after a round or two, Gilbert Burns, if he doesn't get those takedowns and he's forced to strike, and Burns will strike willingly if you want to strike with him. He'll strike if you kind of get him into a gunfire, or you know what I mean. And I think if he just stands there and strikes with Morales, it's going to be Morales' fight to win. I see him getting like a round 2, round 3 knockout. Round 1's a little bit too early for a guy like Gilbert Burns, but the takedowns are going to be interesting. They're going to be very interesting because I've seen Morales. He was having a little bit of difficulty with Neil Magny. So if Burns is able to get takedowns on him like he did with Jack Della Maddalena and he doesn't eat a knee with 2 minutes left and throw the fight, Burns might be able to make this interesting. But I think the more likely outcome is Morales going out there, getting Burns tired, disheartening him by defending some of the takedowns, and then eventually catching him with something. Not necessarily one knockout strike, but, just TKO, too much for Burns at this age. That's going to be my picks for this week. There's not too much that's super exciting. Like, it should be an okay card, but I feel like every time it's an okay card, it ends up being a complete banger, and every time it's a card that's expected to do crazy numbers, it kind of disappoints. So who knows? Maybe this week we'll see crap loads of finishes, but yeah, I know the breakdown this week wasn't too in-depth, but again, like I explained, some of these matchups are just a little bit wonky. But other than that, guys, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'm just going to do the lock of the week right now because I know I talked about it earlier. It's going to be Thiago Moises. He's at basically even money. I know I said I'm trying to go for plus 100s. So if you want, do Thiago Moises and throw Morales in there or throw Bellato. Maybe do Bellato. But yeah, Sadiq, I can't do Sadiq as the lock right now. For the lock of the week, guys, we're going to go Thiago Moises and then throw in either Bellato or throw in Michael Morales. I think that's a safe bet on whatever you're doing. I'd be very surprised if Moises loses this fight. Jared Gordon's a good fighter, but I think Moises has all the potential Again, I won't re-explain myself, but yeah, I think that would be a safe play for you if you guys just want to do one parlay, one bet, Thiago Moises, Morales, call it a day, plus money right there. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Leave a like, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next week. Peace.